All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and try to get started here. Our next speaker is Sam Erickson. Sam is an undergraduate sophomore at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. After enduring social exiles and out atheist at a private Christian high school, he sought comfort in UW-Madison's SSA affiliate and ultimately rose to become president after 4 short months as outreach coordinator. Outreach chair. While ultimately undecided on a long-term career path, he knows that he wants to do this for quite a while and be involved in secular activism. And today he's going to be talking about the role of internal documentation and using that for effective leadership transitions. So let's give a hand for Sam Erickson.
Thank you. Testing. Is this on?
It's just, it goes to the...
Oh, I see. All right. So my name is Sam Erickson. I'm the president of AHA at UW-Madison, which is short for Atheists, Humanists, and Agnostics. I'll be a junior. When I wrote the bio, I was a sophomore. So I wanted to start off talking about our SSA a little bit. In my biased opinion, we're one of the most impressive SSA groups, but judge for yourself. Our email list membership's about 1,600 people. Weekly meetings average about 40. Of course, it dips over the course of the year. So our first meeting, we get like a massive amount of people, like hundreds sometimes. And then only maybe half of those stick around to come around to meetings often. Every spring we do a thing called the Free Thought Festival, which is a free conference. Anyone can attend it, so if you're interested, you should make the trek to Madison next year. This year, we brought in as our headliner the sex columnist Dan Savage. Drew about 500 people for that. Got to have a nice conversation with him up on stage. We also brought in Jamie Kilstein, who's an awesome comedian. We had a debate with Dan Barker versus Matt Slick, who you should not affiliate with anyway. He's a bad person. And then Hemet, who you saw talk today, he was also at a Free Thought Fest amongst many other speakers. So there's some pictures. You can see our officers up in the right with Dan Savage. You can see Hemet on the left, bottom left. We also do Free Thought Speaker Series. So interestingly, our 2 speakers for that this year are also at SSACon right here. We brought in Andrew Seidel in the fall, who's unfortunately speaking right now. Our talks kind of overlap. And then we brought in Jerry DeWitt this spring. We also do everything that your group does. We do tabling, social events, all that fun stuff. So there's some interesting activist stuff that we do. Firstly, I wanted to talk about, in December, we put up a sign in the Wisconsin State Capitol. They turn the Wisconsin State Capitol into a public forum every December. So we applied for a permit and put up a sign with the flying spaghetti monster. He boiled for your sins and all that. It was more, so if you read the bottom, it says, "Think this is ridiculous? We agree. Religious ideas should not be promoted within the halls of government. Protect the separation of church and state. It protects us all." So we would prefer to keep our capital secular. They obviously have many different religious displays up in the Capitol, etc. Last fall we did the God Graveyard. For this display we've shared all of our materials with the SSA, so if you want to do it at your campus you can totally do it. It's up on their website. We put up 200 paper gravestones on Bascom Hill, which is in the center of our campus, so everyone walks past it with the sign that said, "Here lie the graves of thousands of dead gods." Not thousands, probably hundreds. Once worshipped by entire civilizations, now only myths. How much longer will the gods of today last? Continue with our SSA. This is the thing that probably sets us apart the most, and it's not due to how awesome we are, it's just due to how the system at our university, the funding system. We applied for a budget in the fall of 2012, and we managed to get almost $70,000 from the university that goes towards like printing money, advertising, events. Honorarium money is a good chunk of that. That's how we can afford the Free Thought Festival and speaker series and stuff like that. For this year, which started July 1st, we have a very similar budget, brought down a little bit to cut out excess funding. But yeah, so real quickly, before we get into leadership transitions, I want to talk about the programs we use. So we use this thing called, well, we're very Google based. We use Google Drive, which I'll get into in a bit. Google Calendar to put all of our events. Google Groups is great for communication, and so is GroupMe. Google Groups is our email communication, so instead of having to send out an email to every individual officer, you can just send it to AHA-officers at Google Groups. And then from there, everyone can be in the same email thread, everyone can stay up to date. Super effective communication method. There's also this thing called GroupMe, which is a smartphone app. It's like a texting app, so you put all your officers into that, and very, very quick communication as long as you have a smartphone or a cell phone of any type. So say you're doing a tabling event and you forget the banner, you put it on GroupMe, you say, can somebody stop by the office and pick up our banner? We forgot it for tabling. Someone sees that message like, yeah, I'm near the office, I can stop by and bring it to tabling for you. And next I'll talk about Google Drive, which is Google Docs, presentations, which I'm using for this, forms, etc. Very good for internal documentation, which is the subject of my talk. So, I became president of AHA in December. Prior to that, I was brought on as outreach chair in the fall, so I've only been in leadership for just over a year now. I'll be a junior in the fall. Interestingly, my little AHA thing is cut off there. Interestingly, our previous president resigned basically out of the blue, which made it a really difficult leadership transition for me. I was kind of thrown into the fire being president. We did some things really, really well, and we did some things that I think we could do better, so I'm going to highlight both of those in this talk. So for this summer, I'm interning at the Freedom from Religion Foundation. The great thing about corporations like that is they have leaders who have been there forever. Annie Laurie Gaylor, who founded it in 1976, has been at the Freedom from Religion Foundation for 40 years. That's a luxury that student groups don't have. Students are only there for 4 years. Eventually you're going to graduate and you have to pass off the torch to incoming leaders. This is a problem faced by so many groups, and so many groups unfortunately die because they can't do this effectively. So that's one of the problems facing student groups. Another problem is it's very difficult to find impassioned leaders and recruit them. And often those potential leaders don't always step forward without you really pressuring them, saying you'd make a great leader in our group. Have you ever thought about being an officer? So these are some problems that I hope to address for you guys. Real quickly, these are some generic goals that you should have for effective leadership transitions. Transfer significant organizational knowledge, absorb outgoing leadership expertise, increase knowledge and confidence of incoming leadership, minimize momentum loss and confusion. I'll get to these more in a bit towards the end of my talk. So for effective transitions, here's some advice for you guys. Plan ahead. Plan a year or two in advance. If I'm a junior, I'm already thinking to when I'm leaving after senior year. I'm recruiting freshmen and sophomores to take up leadership positions. Recruit young and early. Aim for freshmen and sophomores. Don't recruit juniors and seniors, because if they're in leadership, they're only going to be in leadership for a year and then they leave. And every year you have this problem where you're turning over your entire leadership base. Recruit potential freshmen and sophomore who show a lot of promise, and kind of bring them on saying would you like to be an officer, and test them out, see if they show any commitment to the group, see if you'd like to give them more responsibility going forward. Recruit these people for specific positions and then train them to specialize in those positions. So we brought on, our treasurer is leaving, well, she already left. She's left this summer. We brought on a junior treasurer in the spring to train him to specifically be our treasurer for next year. So he had a whole month's experience, or a whole semester's experience, basically studying under our previous treasurer and learning the position, the paperwork to get the funding freed up, all of this stuff. His name's Mark. Mark will not focus on outreach or anything. He probably doesn't know too much about that because we're a big organization. But he knows all about the treasurer stuff, and that's what we trained him to specialize in. So create an involvement culture. What I mean by this is creating a culture within your group where everyone who's interested can step up and get involved with leadership. So if you have people who are interested in organizing an event who aren't officers, still bring them in and yeah, you can help us out with this. You want as much help as possible. So if you create a culture where everyone gets involved leading these events, then you'll have more potential officers going forward. And lastly, the subject of my talk, use internal documentation, which I'll get to right now. So we use this wonderful service called Google Drive. It's a cloud-based program. We put literally everything we've ever done into the Google Drive. And I'll talk about that more in a bit and what's so great about that. So you can use any cloud-based service. We choose to use Google Drive because it's basically limitless. So this is our drive. Go here, and we have folders for everything. Group upkeep, financial, events, Free Thought Festival. For now, we're going to focus on Free Thought Fest. Go in there, let's focus on Free Thought Fest 2. Here you see we try to upload literally everything we did for this event. So you see like designs, media, paperwork. At the bottom you see a document titled Free Thought Fest and You, a guide to improving the Free Thought Festival. We did that after Free Thought Festival 2, before I was even in leadership. I cannot tell you how useful that document was to organize Free Thought Festival 3 this year. I reference that document so often. Basically what the officers did last year is they created that document, critiques what you did positive, what you did negative. It's like 4 pages long. Just have a brain dump after the thing, get it all down onto paper. This is continuing. As you can see, we put pretty much everything in there, even like invoices and SSA grants. Yeah, feedback, responses, etc. So, some advice for this. Save paper or do it all online. This isn't the 1970s. You don't have to be using filing cabinets anymore. Don't print stuff off. Scan it and put it online. It's much easier to get at. You can even access it on your mobile phone. Yeah, very, very convenient. You can, like I said, you can use any cloud-based program. I personally would recommend Google Drive. I'm not like a Google spokesperson or anything. It's just a great service. And like I said, document everything. So how does this relate to leadership transitions? First of all, you have a permanent record of past events where future leadership can go in and look at everything you did when they weren't involved. Anyone with access can view these documents, so for us it's just our officer base. Even like younger officers can go through and like look at documents from 3 years ago, like we did this event, maybe we should do it again. Yeah. And lastly, I'm going to talk about instructional documents and what's so great about those. So we have a folder in our drive called instructional documents. We started this in the fall of this year, and we've been really expanding it ever since. So in this folder you see documents like how to send a mass email, how to send an email via MailChimp, which is our email service that we use to send out to our listserv, how to set up a Red Cross blood drive, how to stone a heathen, which is a fundraising thing we do, how to set up for the student org fair, etc., etc., etc. So, revisiting the goals that I listed at the beginning, I'm not going to read through these again, but the great thing about this is any internal documentation system you use can assist you in hitting all of these goals. It's really, really powerful when you have like a permanent record of past events, everything you've done, where any officer can go through and see those. And for closing thoughts, before we get to some questions, plan ahead, like I said, recruit young and early, document everything and put it all online, and use instructional documents. And with that, if you have questions, fire away.